Hi, I'm Squire Eadaoin of Quinatema in Rivermore, and today I'm going to be showing you how to draft a pattern on the computer for clothing. So the program we're going to use is called Seamly 2D. You can download it from seamly.net or seamly.io, and you just hit download now. It'll take you down to the form. You fill out name. You do not have to fill out company. You do need to fill out email address. Make sure you put in the right operating system. As you can see, they've got it for 3 different systems. It won't work if it's not for your operating system. And they like to know what you plan to use it for. And you do not have to click that button. Then you hit download. They will email you the link to download the program. And stop share. And it's actually 2 programs in one. The first one is the measurements program called Seamly Me. And we're going to open individual. We'll use my measurements so that I'm not divulging customer information. So you can, in this program, you can add known measurements, which when you do that, it brings up this little box. And it has numbers associated with them. So there's the different heights, widths, just a second, hon, I'm on the different hands. I'm teaching a class, honey. I'm teaching a class. Different head. Sorry about that, guys. Life happening in the background. The different circumferences. Just all there. You don't have to do all of these though. I like to do add custom. You put in an abbreviated name and then the full name, which is what the human readable name is. Go ahead and delete that. If I don't need it, I'm not going to save it. And then you save. I like to have a basic standard sheet because when you're patterning, you can change out the different measurements and it'll scale to the new measurements as long as all of the measurement names are the same. So I use a standard sheet and I just fill it out and save as. Save. Okay, so once you have all your measurements put in, you can start patterning, which is the Seamly 2D program. So the first thing you do is you hit new. You can do centimeters, millimeters, or inches. Make sure it matches the units on the measurements that you're going to be using, or the program will just crash. You can name your draft block. You can change that name later. It does not have to stick. And once you've got the new setup, you need to put in the measurements. Load individual. So now you've got your measurements in. You're going to hit point length and angle and click on the A, because right now that's the only point that you have. It's your starting point. So to start the body block, which you need to, so they just had an update and I have not had a chance to play with it since the update. So this looks a little different than what I'm used to. Interesting. Okay. So measurements, you're going to go with the, there's the my keyword, chest or waist, whichever is larger. and you're going to divide it by 2. And if you did not add any ease into the measurements, you're going to want to add ease here for ease of wear. Otherwise, it's going to be skin tight and not close all the way. Let's add 0.5. And you just hit OK. Zoom to fit. We'll give you the whole thing. And then from here to create the box, point on perpendicular, click on A1, go over to A, function. You want the center, back, neck to waist measurement. And you want that full measurement. And zoom to fit. Do it on the perpendicular again. And function. The nice thing about this is instead of entering in that same formula that I entered for A to A1, I'm going to go to line length. I'm going to click on A to A1. And now it has made it the same length. And if I make any changes to that top line, it's going to change that bottom line at the same time because I based it off of this one. Line. And then I just connect, and there is the square that my basic body block is going to fit into. So now we need to find the midpoint to separate the front from the back. So you select midpoint on line. And it automatically brings up current length divided by 2. Just hit OK. And we're going to find the side midpoints as well to divide the upper body. So that is for, so this one is for where the bottom of the arm guy is. This one is for where the midpoint of the arm guy is. Okay, and then we're going to go line, and we're going to connect the box. And you also need these 2 points here. Instead of doing math and formulas and stuff, point intersect lines. So you select the lines where you want the points of intersection to be. And it puts the points on there for you. So now that I have all the basic construction lines set out for where everything goes, you can start actually building the body block. I like to start with the front because it's the most complicated. And I just like to get the complicated stuff done first. So point on line, you're going to start with A1, go over to A4. Function, you're going to want the shoulder width divided by 2. And I do not add any ease here. All right, so what we're looking for here is we're looking for the front neckline. So we're going to go from now A12 to A1 function. We're going to go in the shoulder seam. Right there. So that is the width of the front neckline. So now we're going to go down, line length, A13 to A1. It's usually about 3 inches, but it's going to be different on different people. So that's why I do the shoulders, half the shoulder seam over, half the shoulder width over, and then the shoulder seam in, just so that it's more comfortable when you're finished. Not right now, Curly. So that is the box that shows roughly where your neck is going to fall. So you can, if you wanted to do a fitted neck, you would do the line within this box. If you want it to be a little not quite so fitted, you would want to go a little outside the box at the top and the bottom. Next is the shoulder. And in the book, Costume Technician's Handbook, I have version 3, I think. They tell you to go down from the neckline 1 3/8 inches. I don't know where they get that number, but it works really well, so I use it. Okay. And then you're going to connect them because this is where the slope of this is where you're going to find the slope for the shoulder, because most shoulders do not go straight across. The only case where you might find that is in like 19th century tailoring with fiddlebacks. It might do that, but most garments are going to have a slope on the shoulder. So the way you find the shoulder point on this line is point, intersect, arc, and line. And you select the points of the line and then select the center point of the arc. Measurements. And then you select the shoulder seam for the width of the arc. And there you have your shoulder. I like to go in from the neckline about 1 inch. Just so it's not sitting right up on my neck. If you want something that's sitting right up on your neck, you would maybe take it in 1/2 inch. But this just tends to be more comfortable for me. Now to get the arm's eye, you need to go over from the center front 1/2 of your front width. And then I like to go down from this point about 1 inch so it's not right up in your armpit. The other thing you can do is take their waist to underarm measurement and go up from the bottom that measurement. I don't normally take that measurement. I'm going to start taking that measurement because it's just easier than guessing and hoping you're right. And it's very important when you do curves that you get them going the right way, because when you make the pattern piece, when you tell the program this is my pattern piece, you have to go clockwise. And if the curve is not going the right way, the program's not going to read it as a curve. It's going to read it as a straight line between the 2 points that you select. So this curve needs to go this way. And you see there's a little arrow right there that indicates which way the curve is going. And it's got little splines that you move. Come on. There we go. And just get it shaped to what looks right. And there you have your arm's eye, your front arm's eye. If you're going to be doing something for a female presenting body and you want to have princess seams, you're going to need to know the bust point to bust point, the waist, no, not that one, bust point to bust point, and center shoulder to bust point, which bust point is basically your nipples. Center point, there. So to find your best point, you go over from A8 to A11, half of your best point to best point distance. And it's going to fall down in here somewhere. So you want that line on the waistline as well, so you can connect the 2 points. And I'm going to do line length. So if that point changes with any, if the formula changes at all, they'll change the same way. All right, so now you're going to do the same thing you did to find the bottom of the shoulder. The point intersect arc and line. You select your line, select your point, and then the measurement is going to be center shoulder to bust point. And that is a little low for my liking. So I'm going to adjust the formula a little bit. There we go. That's it where I want it to. Because if you're also doing, if you have the waist to under bust point, you can put that on here. You don't have to, but you can. If you're doing more period style garments, you're going to want that point. But for modern princess themes, you do not need that point. All right, move you back over here. So next, we're going to do the princess theme. So we're going to select point on curve. Why did you do that? Why did you do that? Technology, gotta love it. So if it does something like that, you can come over here and select, there we go, that's better. And then you can fix it. That's better. All right, we want point on the curve. So we're gonna take curve length and we're gonna subtract, let's see, it looks like it's 3 inches. So here's the point. I don't want it right there. So we're going to go to, that's better. So this is going to be the top part of the chest guard. Because when you in that book that I mentioned, the Costume Technician's Handbook, they mention chest darts and waist darts. And you're going to need those to make the princess theme. And they tell you how to calculate them if they go beyond what they tell you. So we're going to do another point on the curve. Select your curve. Function. Move it out of the way so I can see what point names are. Curve length. Oh, let's see if it's 826 to 820. No, it's not that one. I want 821 to 826 because it's going to go on this curve. So when you put a point on a curve, it divides it into this one and this one as well for the sake of formula purposes. So as you can see, I've got 3 different curves listed here now. So we're going to add measurements. Let's see. I start divided by 2 because you're splitting it onto either side of that point that you've put in there. I don't know that I like that. Okay. And then we're going to do another point. Not right now, Curly. I have to do that over so I can see my point names. Okay. Curve length. We're going to go the A21 to A26 this time. We're going to subtract. The chest start divided by 2. Okay. And now I need to put the points for the waist start, which is a lot easier to do because they're on either side of this point. Function equals waist start divided by 2. And you can move the point names around if they're in the way and you're on top of each other or something like that. I hear you, Pupper. Line length. Okay. So now that you've got all the points set up, you can do the princess theme, which you're going to come back down to curve, and you're going to select curve fixed. And you have to have 4 points for this curve. Select first point of curve. So this one, because this pattern piece is going to go around this way, you want the curve going this way. So you select the bottom, there, there, and there. That doesn't look right. Let's move this one up a bit. That looks better. Not much, but better. But then I don't have, we're just going to leave it like that, and it's just going to look funny. Which you always want to do a mock-up to make any changes and make sure it fits properly. So the next side, the top side, you're going to start on the bottom and go up. And these lines are not going to be the same length. If you hover over it, it'll bring up, this is 12.7134 inches, and that's 11.0606 inches. So what I do is I do the points online, point on curve, here on the longer one, and you want to do curve length A28. A30. And so now the arm's eye lines, the A18 to A20, is going to come down here to this line now. So draw that in so you can see it. And that way, when you sew these together, these two lines are the same length, and these will match up properly. So that is the front. All that's left is the neckline, and you can do it any number of ways. You can leave it square, you can put a curve in, you can drop it down, you can do a V-neck. There's lots of different possibilities. So the next part is, oh, the waist. I forgot the waist. Waist is pretty simple. Points on line, A2 to A5. You want to do waist circumference, puppy, stop. Sorry, my dog is barking at something. And you want to divide it by 4 plus the waist dart and ease. And I do about a 1/4 inch for ease because it's going to be times 4. So it's going to give you a whole inch of ease around the whole garment. Which for me, that's almost there. But for some people, it's going to be smaller. Some people, it might be bigger. But that's why you also do the biggest measurement for your first line instead of just doing chest or waist. You want to go with the bigger of the two. And we do that. And now the front's done except for the neckline. Oh my gosh, dog. So next is the back. And oh, it's only been half an hour. That's not bad. If you were doing this on paper, the same process is used on paper, the same the Eadaoin, the same measurements are used, the same system is used. You just got to do it by hand, and that takes a lot longer. And you're not sure if your angles are going to be right all the time, but it makes it easier to do like the princess scene. So 6 in one, half dozen in the other. All right, so back neckline, A13 to A1. And I like to add 1/2 inch because the back of your neck usually sits a little wider than the front of your neck. And then we're going to go up. This is where the process differs from what they say in the costume technician's handbook. The shoulder seams are different than what they say to do in the costume technician's handbook, because every time we did it that way that they suggested, the shoulder always had to get moved. And so I figured out what I needed to do. This goes up 1 inch. And then you're going to do the same thing you did for the front shoulder, intersect arc and line. Select your line, select the top point. And select your shoulder seam. Then you're going to find your back width. For the back of the arm's eye. You're going to divide that by 2. I would recommend putting a little bit of ease in here. Well, no, because that's going to throw off the shape. Let's see what it looks like. Yeah, that looks about right. Because if I added anything to it, it'd put it over here on the outside of the shoulder point, and that makes it look weird and makes it hard to sew. Curly, pardon my dog. And then this is again where you're going to start the curve up here at 836 and go down to 821, because when you're doing this piece, when you're turning this into the pattern piece, you're going to have to go around this way. And if the curve's not going the right way, which I've done a couple times, it's not going to read as a curve. It's going to read as a straight line. Now, if you want to do a princess seam on the back, you can. You don't have to go through the complex process you went through on the front, because they're both going to start at like 836. You would want to find the halfway point here and the halfway point here and put your waist start here. But I generally don't do a princess seam on the back because it's unnecessary unless they're doing a truly period piece where they don't have a side seam and it's the princess seam on the back where all the shaping goes. So I might as well show you it then. We got time. It's not like we don't have enough time. So what you're going to do is find the halfway point. You got to find the waist first. So you got to find the waist because you want to find the halfway point. So it's going to be the same as the front. So just do line length A32, A2 to A32. And again, you're going to want to move point labels around so you can read them all. So there's your side seams. You want the halfway point between the center back and the side seam. And then you're going to go up here and you're going to do function line length, and you're going to find that line from the center back, so A3 to A38. Put you up there. And then you're going to find half of the waist start on either side. So start, waist start divided by 2. $40. And you're going to do that on both sides. And you're probably thinking, oh, it's only a 1/4 inch. That's not going to add up. Well, the thing is, you've got 4 waist starts. That adds up to 1 inch. No more than an inch, because you got 1/2 inch here, 1/2 inch here. So that adds up to 2 inches of extra at the waist. And if you want something that's fitted, you're not going to want that there. It's just going to bag out and look weird. If you don't want something that's fitted, don't worry so much about this part then. Line length. Okay, so now you're just going to do curves and make sure you get the curve going the right way. So this piece is going to go around like this. You want, actually you're going to want a spline connecting this point to this point to this point, and then you hit enter to let it know that you're done connecting points. You move the splines around. And sometimes it does something silly, like move it, make it so the spline is right on top of the point. You got to zoom in to grab the spline. And then you're going to want to do a second curve like that. Spline. Starting at the A41, going up to A39, and then A36. And then hit enter to let it know you're done selecting points. And then you're going to want the top to match as much as possible. There we go. That looks good. And if they're not exactly the same, that's fine. It's a princess theme. You're going to be easing in anyway. So other than the neckline, we're just going to do a V neckline, I think. V back necklines are very common in the Middle Ages because it helps support the fabric and keep it from swelling off your shoulders. Right, length, I'm going to use this measurement here so that if I ever change that measurement, it changes this one too, and that way the back shoulders are always the same. And you actually want 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch more in the back so that when you sew the seams together, you've got movement room in the back. So we're going to subtract. No, we're going to add. No, we want to subtract 0.5 because I want 1/2 inch longer. There we go. And then we're going to move this down. We're going to go halfway, I think. Halfway between there. And then we're just going to connect it to the line. So there is how you pattern the front and back of a bodice. And from this, you can do any kind of changes you want to make it any shape that you want. You can add skirts onto the bottom. You can make a V for a vest. There's a lot of things you can do from this. Generally, what I would do is once you get it here, I would print it off and then hand draft the rest of it because it's going to be easier to manipulate by hand after this point. But the advantage of doing this is this took me 40 minutes. If I was doing this part by hand, it would take me about 1.5 hours, 2 hours. So the next part is to tell the program which pieces are pieces. So you come here to add new pattern piece. And like I said, you have to go in a clockwise direction. So I'm going to go, I start at the shoulder point on the front, go down here. And even if you don't have the line drawn, it's going to infer lines. It's just worried about the point. And then when you get to a curve, you have to click on the curve. And then like this curve is bisected by a point. So you click on the point and it'll stop at that point. Then you hit enter to let it know that you are done selecting points. So the next point is I would select forbid flipping because otherwise when you send it to the layout, it might mirror the pattern piece. And if you're doing something where the sides are very specific, you don't want it to do that. So I just click forbid flipping, and you can name the pattern piece. Otherwise, they're all just pattern piece 1, pattern piece 2. And it's like, which piece is it looking at? So you can name the pattern pieces here. Then you select OK. We're going to come over here to piece, zoom to fit. And there is my center front. You see how it inferred the line of the V line for the front. Here's the curve for the princess theme. I did not put match points on this princess theme, so we're just going to do A8 so I can show you notches. But you right click on it, select properties, come up here to path, right click on A8, and it brings up this little menu. And you can select what kind of notch you want. I want a T notch. Then you come over here to seam allowance, and you can show cut line. You can say the seam allowance is built in which case they hide all that. I don't usually do that. You can hide the seam line. Again, I don't usually do that because it's kind of nice when you print it out, you can measure and make sure it's right. You can change the width. I usually do 1/2 inch seam allowance. Another fun thing you can do, say I want A8 to A2 to be on a fold. I don't want that cut. I want it to be on a fold. It's not a seam. So we're going to go to node, A8, after, because I want this part. So anything after that point, I don't want seam allowance. We're going to select 0. Then we're going to switch nodes to A2. And anything before A2, we don't want seam allowance. And I'll just hit apply so you can see what that looks like. So it's showing me the notch. There's no seam allowance there because it's going to be on a fold. And it changed the seam allowance to 1/2 inch. Next, we've got the labels, which is really nice. They have pattern label, which it'll put on every piece of the pattern, plus bodice. And you can move that around. Then right click, go back to properties, labels. And now you can do piece label. This will be just for this piece. Going to add center front. Add another one. I like to put what the piece name is, who the piece is for, when you patterned it, so you know when it was patterned in case their measurements change, because bodies fluctuate, it happens. And how many to cut. And if it's on the fold, say on the fold. And you select OK. And it's not going to show until I hit either apply or OK. So let's hit OK so you can see what that looks like. Go back to properties. Next thing you can adjust, I'm not sure what the anchors is for. I haven't really played with that, so I'm not sure what anchor points is for. So let's go to green line. If you have something that you want to cut on the bias, so you're doing a bias cut, you can switch that to 45 degrees, and you can change the length of it. I like to have it at like 5 inches. So that would be bias cut. But I don't want to do bias cut. We're going to go back to 90. And you can move this around too. And if it's something that's on the fold and it's going to be straight a grain like that, you don't have to put a grain line. It's just nice to have. It's a one less way to screw up, because I've done that before. And you can change the notches. So if you did, if you select in paths, if you selected something to be a notch down here at notches, you can change things around a bit. You can change the type of notch. You can change how many. Because on commercial patterns, this would be 1 diamond from center front to side front. Side front to side back would be 2 diamonds. And then side back to center back would be 3 diamonds. And so on and so forth. So once you've got that done, you've done this to all your pattern pieces, they're all ready to go. You go to layout. You can select the widest that most commercial printers can do is 36 inches. Height doesn't matter as much, the width does. Because you can auto crop unused length. I probably only need, we'll say 20 inches just to be safe. And height, we'll put 36. Because you can auto crop the unused length. You can also unite pages if you have more than one piece and they're not all going to fit on, if they don't all fit on the heights that you give, it'll automatically unite the pages so that they become one long strip. Margins go beyond printing, apply settings, yes. And there is your layout. You can adjust this if you want right here. Let's go down to 15 inches and do 40 inches for the length. Hi, Curly. It likes to keep the same layout. It likes to keep straight lines to one of the edges for some reason. So just something to watch out for. This is the most frustrating part for me is the layout section because this is more likely to get cut off in printing. So that's part of why I do the seam allowance and show the seam line still so I can measure and see if anything got cut off in printing. So once you have your layout, you're going to select export layout, path, layout, select the folder you want to save it in, and then this is going to be the name. If you're doing a single piece at a time, I like to name the piece so I don't get confused with the files themselves. File formats. There's a lot of different file formats you can do. They have SVG, PDF. You can do a tiled PDF so you can print at home. PNG, JPEG, bitmap, AutoCAD, different ones. I like to save as a PDF because I usually get it printed off at a professional printer. And then you hit save. And that is how you use Seamly 2D. Are there any questions?
Well, I'm gonna stop recording. So
Alrighty, sounds good.